It was dark, but I could hear the intermittent sound of cars, so I guessed it was around 4 in the morning. I felt comfortable, even though I'm usually awake at this time, but the baby was asleep, and maybe I could get an extra hour of sleep, so I tried to close my eyes. I rolled over, then suddenly felt a rush of heat, familiar blood flooding my sanitary items. Wait, I'm pregnant. My mind suddenly became clear. Focus. I quickly got up, ran into the bathroom, pulled my blood-soaked pajamas down to my ankles, sat on the toilet, blood continuously gushing out. I shouted for my husband. He rushed into the bathroom, quickly assessed the situation. Fear filled his eyes. I asked him to get my phone. I needed to call 911. He anxiously said he would call, but I insisted he get my phone. He did, and I dialed the number. Meanwhile, he was also calling 911 from the house phone.
911, what's your emergency?
A calm female voice said.
I need an ambulance now. I'm pregnant and I'm bleeding too much.
Ma'am, can you see the baby's head?
No, I can't see it. I have placental abruption. The baby's not coming out. Please send an ambulance immediately.
Ma'am, how far along are you?
About 6.5 months. Please, please, there's no time. I need an ambulance.
Ma'am, please take a look and tell me if you can see the baby's head.
Miss, I told you the baby's not coming out. Anyway, this delivery needs a C-section. It's not working. The bathroom looks like a crime scene. There's too much blood. It won't stop. Please stop asking questions. Send an ambulance immediately.
She asked for my name and address, my husband's name. I hurriedly gave her all the information.
They're on their way, ma'am. I just found out Ryan is talking to us. You need to hang up and lie down. Wait for them to arrive.
Ryan was on the house phone. I couldn't hear what he was saying. He helped me up, half supporting me to the couch in the living room. I saw a blood stain on the carpet. I sat down, not sure what to do. He was on the phone, pacing back and forth, ordering me to lie down. I didn't want to, but I needed to make sure they understood my situation when they arrived. My head was spinning. I struggled to stand, my eyes heavy. I heard the sirens. Then everything went black and quiet. When I woke up, I noticed someone shaking my body. I saw my husband standing on the other side of the room, talking to 2 men in uniform. I wasn't sure if they were police or firefighters, but I was worried about my messy house, the living room crowded with several strange men in various uniforms.
We're going to lift you, Joan. Don't resist. We need to put something underneath you. You're bleeding a lot.
They pulled my body to the side, then pushed to the other side. As they slid a thick plastic or vinyl underneath my entire body, I felt myself being lifted. In my mind, it felt like a body bag. It was meaningless. I couldn't move my body or speak. I felt like a stranger, looking at everything through someone else's eyes. I couldn't voluntarily move my body. I felt disconnected from myself.
Ready? 1, 2, 3.
I felt my body wrapped in a plastic cocoon, the weight of my body suspended there when the couch left me. They set me down square on my back. I was put on a very narrow plank, strapped around me. The plank felt too narrow. I might fall off. The straps didn't look sturdy enough to hold my weight. Suddenly a jolt, I was lifted. The plank began to move rapidly, through the living room, past the TV, towards the front door. There was a lot of shouting among the men, but I couldn't understand. The journey was bumpy. They carried me over the threshold of the front door, down the concrete steps, across the lawn, down the driveway. I opened my eyes, saw the stars in the sky.
Joan, stay awake. I need to talk to you.
A stranger requested. I looked to the side, and saw my street filled with police cars, fire trucks, and ambulances. My eyes fixed on the back door of the ambulance, then I was turned around to see the police cars and fire trucks. I looked at the stars again, then I was lifted into the ambulance. The beautiful sky was obscured by the harsh artificial lights on my face, then everything went black, dark, and quiet. In the darkness, I felt weightless, timeless, ageless. I felt nothing, no gravity, no breath, no sound, no attachment, no body, no temperature, no worries, nothing at all. It was a sense of stillness, but there was a tunnel or tubular vortex pushing me. Yet, there was no concept of movement. I just knew I was moving towards somewhere or something. I longed for home, as if finally returning home after a tragic journey. I felt tired, a deserved rest. I was immersed in a pure, loving, blissful feeling, infinitely grateful to be here. It might have been a second, it might have been a million years, there was no time in this place.
Joan, stay with me. I need to know how far along you are.
This fervent love was interrupted by the blinding lights, the alarms, and the creaks of the ambulance as it drove. I saw the men around busy, but I couldn't understand. I felt angry at the scene that looked like a battlefield. I wished everything would disappear. I saw myself for the first time. I saw a sad but beautiful woman. I saw a furry arm reaching out from her, wearing a light blue glove, pressing a transparent mask over her nose and mouth. He took out a small device from behind her with his other hand, shoved it into her arm, and covered the unknown thing with tape. I saw the driver look back and shout, but I couldn't understand what he was saying. I didn't feel any urgency. I felt as if I were watching a movie, loving the protagonist, but also accepting that this was the final scene. I knew everything would be okay. I was filled with deep love and respect as I voluntarily returned to the profound void. My head was violently shaken, and once again, the glaring lights and noise appeared.
Joan, what's your name?
I looked up at the person who seemed to genuinely need this information, as if his life depended on it. Though he appeared blurred and almost unreal, I couldn't even muster the effort to answer him. Organizing language and remembering details required too much effort, and he would say my name regardless.
Are you going to have a boy or a girl?
Gerald, what will her name be?
No, that's a secret. I promise to keep it. Please tell me your name.
Morgan! Morgan, take a deep breath and look at me now.
How did he get this job? Speaking required too much effort. Didn't he understand that organizing language and remembering details were almost impossible? I hoped he would stop bothering me and let me return to the void. He seemed unreal, like a hallucination in my mind. I needed to get back to that familiar space filled with love.
You have a baby at home. Is it a boy or a girl? He's Liam. Joan, you have to stay awake and talk to me. Your children need you to keep talking.
I allowed myself to return to my long-lost paradise filled with love, but this time, I had more awareness. She didn't struggle.
Hey, ma'am, you have a son at home who needs you to take care of him. Liam will want to see you when he wakes up this morning. Your husband can't take care of him alone. Ma'am, if you give up, your daughter will die. Joan, look at me.
As I witnessed this scene, I saw her lifeless body. The mask now covered her face, and I realized I needed to decide what was best for her. I saw the people on either side of her adjusting her arms and giving her injections. The driver kept looking back. 3 men were shouting at each other, yelling at the lifeless object on the gurney. I didn't feel any urgency. It was like watching a movie where you love the protagonist but accept that this is the final scene. I knew everything would be okay, no matter what the outcome. I returned home once again, allowing affection to nourish me. I savored it, feeling endless gratitude for this place. I continued from where I left off in the dark tunnel, without fear, without expectation, without senses, just a perception. I felt content to be in this familiar endless moment. I realized the gratitude I felt for it. I continued to be drawn towards something like a magnet, realizing I was moving towards the place I longed to return to. I strongly sensed that I was accompanied by multiple unseen entities reaching the destination. Where this awareness came from, I didn't know. I just had a certain knowing. I felt it was a choice I could freely make. I allowed myself to drift in the vortex, feeling the sensation of pushing boundaries towards the event horizon. I realized I was some sort of warrior, an existence fate made uncomfortable and assisted in changes needed. But I needed answers. I didn't know what to do or how to do it. I understood my power and willingness to always do what I felt was right, regardless of the compromises or sadness it might bring, even if it left me isolated. I was consumed by the feeling of love, knowing it was what I was destined to do. But the joy of returning here was so enticing. I realized I would return faster than I realized, and the compromises made now would be worth it. I knew returning was a decision I made a long time ago. When I consciously agreed it wouldn't take too long, they were filled with love and encouragement. I feel profound sadness as I consciously decide to go back to my miserable life. I feel a loving send-off and the sense that these presences are giving me a sort of inspiration that I can achieve what I am supposed to alone. I feel that I can do it, a knowing that I chose to do this already and that I didn't finish. The presence is giving me a strong feeling of validation and that I will remember that even if I am alone, they will be waiting for me when I complete the mission. They fill me with love and encouragement as I consciously agree that it won't take too long, and I'll be back. I accepted I had to return to the ambulance, not because I wanted to, but because I had an obligation to do something. I tearfully opened my eyes, overwhelmed by the assault of human inventions, the lights, the noises, sudden movements, and the restraint devices on my body and face. I felt offended, deceived, and angry as I noticed the fleeting magic of happiness would soon fade. I struggled to remember it, never to forget it. In that moment, I realized I had been there before, with a pure supernatural love and a feeling of detachment from anything, anyone, or even a body. It was a familiar feeling, but I had no memory of it before. After the cries stopped, and after a series of turns and reversals, the ambulance stopped, the door opened abruptly, revealing a group of uniformed strangers pulling my wheeled stretcher towards them. I vowed to myself that I would leave my comfort zone and change the world. I thought of the man I had loved for years, and the life experiences I never had the chance to share with him. I thought of the places around the world I wanted to go and the music created by unknown artists, perhaps even the music I hadn't composed yet. I thought of my Liam, longing to embrace him, my future children. I thought of my unborn daughter, her life hanging in the balance. I feared losing her and resolved to see her beautiful eyes and tell her this story at all costs. When considering my future, I didn't think of Ryan. I saw the man I couldn't have, my 3 children, and the beautiful things I hadn't yet completed and experienced. I was ready to live, but deeply saddened by the love and tranquility I had just left. In that moment, I felt intoxicated and nostalgic with love, but it would fade faster than it came. After a month in the hospital, enduring another bout of bleeding and an emergency C-section. During that month, I did a lot of life reflection and evaluation. I went over what happened over and over again. I decided to make significant changes in my life, to simplify, and end shallow friendships and materialism. My daughter was born prematurely but healthy. I recovered well. My daughter is now 12, and my son is 14. 3 years after the incident, my husband and I divorced. I finally had a relationship with the man I had always loved, but it didn't last. Until today, I'm still trying to understand this experience and figure out what I should do in this existence.